Hello guys, and welcome back to the hybrid model for another video. My name is T and let's get into it. So this is the third time I'm trying to record this video. The first two times it was just a lot of foolishness happened. For some reason my mic didn't work first time around, and the second time the camera ran out of battery. Yeah, it's a vibe. But anyway, we're here now, so let's do this. So today the focus of the video is on the key aspects that can make or break a PhD. And to kick things off, first things first, your research project. It needs to be a good research project that adds knowledge, or rather value, to the academic world, so to academia, and like the actual world, the real world, whether in an industry or commercial way, etc. So from an academic point of view, you'd hear something along the lines of your research has to be novel, or your research has to add novelty. Basically meaning it has to provide value and knowledge that doesn't already exist in the research space you're working in at the time you start working in it, basically. And that novelty doesn't have to be some earth-shattering, groundbreaking, new kind of philosophy or anything like that. It just needs to be about 5% improvement on whatever's around. So that's the bare minimum. A 5% value add is enough to make a PhD worthwhile. You just have to, word it correctly and write about it in your thesis in the right way to express the value that's added by your PhD. Number two, there are things you need to consider before you kind of venture down the PhD journey route. And this is primarily for part-time students, as has been my experience going through my PhD journey. And it's that when you kick off your PhD journey, you pretty much need to forget about things like social life, dating, I don't know, gatherings with family and friends, get-togethers, whatever. Anything that's a social aspect, just chuck that away. Just throw it in the bin for the next 5 years, because you're not gonna have time for that. You're not gonna have time for that. All your free time will be spent on your PhD. Again, if you're doing it part-time, you won't have time for it. If you're doing it full-time, I can't speak to that. I'll assume you have a bit more time, but I can't speak for the full-timers because I'm only a part-timer. So the other thing you need to pretty much sacrifice are holidays. Now, listen, I understand that that's going to trigger a lot of people, but it's not as bad as it sounds. Okay, it's as bad as it sounds. I mean, what do you want from me? I can't sugarcoat this. Essentially, you're gonna have to sacrifice holidays. So if you were used to going on like regular holidays, more than once a year, shut that down. At best, it's once a year. Realistically, it's probably gonna be like once every 18 to 24 months, so once every at least 2 years, because you won't have the time to really venture on holidays, because you have a lot of pressure on you to provide a lot of research, to perform a lot of research, to perform a lot of research for your PhD. And this will be happening in your spare time when you're not working on your full-time job. And also remember, it's not like you're going to come back from work and then power through your PhD. That's just nonsense. It's not going to happen, because you're human. There'll be lazy days, there'll be days you procrastinate, there'll be days you have other priorities, whether it's work or maybe a family emergency, or just, I don't know, you're just being lazy. You're just like, I don't care, sort of thing. I've been through all of that. So that's why I'm saying you're going to sacrifice holidays, because there'll be times you're doing crunch time throughout like the summer period, basically, or even throughout Christmas period. Yeah, it sounds sad, I know, but it is what it is. So food for thought whilst you're freaking out and being triggered. Number three is your supervisor. So when you're doing a PhD, you need a supervisor to guide you through your PhD, because this is whether you're full-time or part-timer, by the way, because you're going to be new to the academia world in this research kind of aspect. So half the time you don't know what you're doing, or what what you need to do, and what kind of tick boxes you need to tick to kind of progress through all the levels of the PhD. So you need a seasoned expert to guide you through that, and that will be a supervisor basically. And the good news is you get to choose your supervisor, but they also have to accept. So yeah, that's the thing. And choosing the wrong supervisor can literally mean you fail your PhD, because a bad supervisor won't guide you. They won't care about your research or you in progressing, and they may even demoralize you and derail your research because they're not supporting you in the way that they should. So this is critical. I dare say this is a linchpin. The supervisor is the linchpin to the whole thing. So if you're going to a new university or university you've never been to, I urge you to interview as many supervisors as possible, potential supervisors as possible, like interview them one-on-one. And because I actually think that's actually the normal process anyway. And also speak to either current students or former students of them who are like PhD students or postdoc researchers or whatever. Anyone who works with these individuals, to find out what it's like to actually work with this person, and or like be supervised by them, so that at least you get an idea of what it really would look like for the next 5 years being supervised by the individual. Now, personally, I didn't have to go through all this minutia because I'm doing my PhD at Anglia Ruskin University, where I did my undergrad and master's degree. So I simply went to the lecturers who used to teach me from my undergrad and master's, and because they also do PhD supervisions, and I simply spoke to them and then asked one of them to become my supervisor. She said yes, and then built a supervisory team of colleagues she trusts and works well with to supervise me and guide me through my PhD. So yeah, mine was super easy because I didn't have all these hurdles to go through. So yeah, that's just another food for thought. Another thing I recently found out is, from actually speaking to another researcher I know, is a supervisor has influence over how much funding your research gets. So if they are a good supervisor, they'll get you more funding for your research. If they don't care about you, or they care about other research that isn't yours, then you might not get the funding you need to progress your research, basically. And that can also make or break a research project. So again, choose your supervisors wisely. Personally, I don't need to worry about the whole funding thing because I'm self-funding the whole thing since I'm a part-timer. So I don't have these issues, but I'm just kind of covering them in this video so that depending on which route you go, full-timer or part-timer, you kind of have as much information to help you. So now let's talk about the fourth thing. Publish or perish. So when you are studying a PhD or researching a PhD, whatever, it doesn't matter, whichever terminology you want to use, you need to publish some research papers. For at least the way it was explained to me was, you need to publish research papers to let the research community know about your research. And the reason for this is because in case someone else is doing something similar to you, or dare I say the exact same research as you don't want them to publish their research first, because that they snipe you, and then you can't then publish your research as I'm researching whatever it is, because it'll be their research now publicly in the research community. So you want to be the first one to say, I'm researching this project, this topic, this mechanism, whatever it may be. That way the community now knows you're the one doing it, and then anything that comes after is published research about that topic you're working on is coming from you, and anyone else can't claim the same subject matter, topic, whatever. They can't claim it. They have to come up with something else. So that's the reasoning. So for anyone who prefers to work in incognito for a period of time, yeah, that won't fly in the PhD world. You're gonna have to publish. It's actually for your own good and for your own security, basically. It also means that companies like, I don't know, Google, AstraZeneca, Microsoft. I'm in the tech industry, so I know more about research about the tech industry. Because they can publish something it's within the similar field as you, and well, you're not competing against a multi-billion-dollar company, are you? So it's best to publish early in your research, within your first, second year kind of level. Publish early to at least let the PhD world, the research community, know about your research and that you're doing it. And when I talk about the research community, just for clarity, this is the research community at a global level, as in the world. So, but within your specific research space, obviously. So I'm in the computer science space, so that's those people who care about my research and the people I announce to. But if you're doing biology or, I don't know, business or whatever, similar setup is there in those communities as well. It's all pretty much the same. So yeah, food for thought. Let me just shut this down. Sorry guys, popular guy this evening, which makes no sense, but whatever. Now, for my university, from what I've been told, I need to publish a minimum of, actually no, I need to publish at least 2 to 5 papers, with the minimum being 2 papers, preferably 5 being the better number. And I've already published 2 papers as it stands, and I'm publishing another one this year to a journal. So yeah, but there's no limit really. You can publish as many papers as you want, and it also depends on your university, the research space you're in, how much other researchers are publishing. All these things are factors. So don't take my 2 to 5 papers as the kind of golden rule. It's just what my university states as the bare minimum. So you need to check with your university, even country and education system, etc., because the rules on that whole publishing thing might be different. But essentially you need to publish, otherwise you're not going to make it. Your PhD will fail if it hasn't been if it is not being published to the community, because if the community doesn't accept your PhD, your university can't then award you. Sorry, let me rephrase that came out wrong. If the research community doesn't accept and acknowledge and validate your research, the university you're studying at cannot award you a PhD. So yeah. Also, going back to the supervisor thing, remember I said the supervisor was a linchpin to the whole thing? Yeah, your supervisor will be critical to guiding you towards the correct conferences to publish your papers at, and journals. Conferences and journals are pretty big, and some conferences have more prestige than others, and your supervisor will know the right conferences and journals to publish to get the right pedigree that your research is worth its weight in salt, and that you're deserving of a PhD. So again, as a reminder, choose your supervisor wisely. Now, I think we're on the 5th thing, aren't we? I think it's number 5. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Next on the list of things of aspects that are critical to your PhD is you need to have a plan for after your PhD. So you need like an exit strategy, and that sounds wrong in this case, but what I mean essentially is you need to have a plan of what you're going to do after your PhD. Whether it is you're staying in academia, or you're going to the private sector, or I guess those are only two options. There's no other option unless I can think of it. But whatever other option you can think of. Now, personally, because I'm doing mine part time, I already have a job. So my exit strategy is just kind of continue with my job and then see if I can leverage my PhD for growth opportunities and promotions within my work or within the general tech industry and kind of go from there. But my exit strategy is pretty straightforward. Just keep going to work. But if you're a full-timer, for example, you need to have a plan of action. So either you're going private and getting a job, or you're staying in academia and maybe pursuing a postdoc research of some kind to further your research into the topic you're in, or even expand it. But with that, you need to find out if your university will fund your postdoc research, because if they don't, then you just end up as a glorified lecturer, which may be something you want to do, but it may be something you have no interest in doing. So you need to look into that. Alternatively, you can always apply to other universities that would fund your research, and then go to those universities and do a postdoc there. Now, I'm no expert in postdocs personally, so yeah, I'm not going to say more than that. But another option that I know from a friend of mine who actually went down this route is you can get a private company to fund your research whilst you're in university. But of course, the research you're doing has to be something they have interest in, essentially. So that's another option. However, be careful, because a private company will come with its own terms and conditions, and just make sure you read the fine print on what their plans are for the research, what you can and cannot do with the research moving forward once you sign the dotted line, etc. But the good news is sometimes you may actually get employed by the company to implement the system into whatever they're going to use it for post finishing your postdoc research, if you will. So there are many options once you're a PhD. So yeah, but just have a plan. Finally, the last thing as an aspect is the importance of community. So a PhD journey is very lonely, and it's pretty much it's like a solitary confinement journey. So it's like you're in solitary confinement, but you're free. You're not in a prison, so to speak. But it's very lonely, and besides your supervisor, you be the person who's most knowledgeable about your PhD, and there's really no one else you can speak to about it in terms of who understands it intimately. But this is expected. So community comes here in the sense of support and just kind of keeping you focused. So there are different forms of community in this case. There's the community of university, which can be made up of your supervisors and other researchers within within the same kind of subject matter, like computer science or biology or whatever, because they'll understand the general research area because they're also in it as researchers or supervisors. And so they can always give you some tidbits that might just help you to keep focused, or you can even share notes on how to stay focused, how to stay motivated, how to kind of shake off any depression or procrastination or whatever it may be, and kind of keep pushing through. So that's very important. Just like a support network is very important for that, given the loneliness attached to a PhD. Another group of people who come in handy here would be family and friends. Now, I know I said earlier that you're going to have to sacrifice your social life, basically. But if you have really good friends who are understanding of your situation, they won't just be like, all right, cool, whatever. We don't speak to you anymore. We just hang out on our own. They'll still stay in your life. They just know that they can't see you as regularly as they may have seen you before. but they can come in handy in just supporting you and offering you just like a breath of fresh air from your research, whether they're asking about your research or just kind of taking your mind off of it. So when you come back, you're more motivated. That's very important. Just, just to know that you're not alone throughout the whole thing. And I'm fairly sure your family will also back you up, because my family backs me up all the time. Hell, my mom is always just asking, how's the PhD? And then I'll tell her and she'll be like, oh, you're almost done. I'm already preparing my what I'm going to wear on your graduation. And I'm just like, thanks for that. I appreciate the pep talk, I guess. But no, I'm kidding. She says more than that, but like, it's good to just have these people like around you or supporting you and kind of, keeping you on the path. So I wasn't really going to add this, but I'll kind of put it at the end here. So one thing I've learned throughout my PhD is don't be afraid to fail. In fact, learn to fail fast. And the reason is you want to fail fast because you get to find out what works and what doesn't in terms of experiments, possibilities, and direction for your PhD. And the sooner you find that out, the sooner you can make decisions to either pivot your research or find new strategies. Because the last thing you want is to tiptoe around trying to make everything perfect, only to discover that the direction you went down was completely wrong. And now you're like, 3.5 years into your PhD, and it's like you need to start writing your thesis in 10 months. That's the last thing you want. So it's best to start kind of crashing and burning early in your first, second, and preferably first and second year. By third year, you kind of really want to have a solid structure for the most part, but you can crash and burn in your third year as well, as long as you're good at pivoting. But yeah, you just need to learn to fail quickly and then recover from that and pivot. That way, you're in a better place. But and also, I'm just gonna say this: nothing will go to plan during your PhD. Absolutely nothing. So just get comfortable with the fact that at some point it all goes to hell. I mean, the first 6 months of your research in your first year, yeah, they'll go to plan. They'll go to plan hard. After that, all bets are off. All bets are off. So just get comfortable with that fact and gotta ride the wave. Ride the wave, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and remember why you're doing it for. Because you need a reason, to kind of even start a PhD, let alone finish it. So just, keep that stuff with you. Anyway, guys, this has been fun. And I hope you guys found this informative and enjoyable. I'm going to head off now because I need to finish off a movie called The Gray Man. It's a very intense movie. I kind of just left it halfway in. Just record this video. But yeah, I need to jump back to that. So I will catch you guys in the next video. Signing out.